The Ethiopian Bible is the oldest and most complete Christian Bible in existence. It predates the King James Version by over 1,000 years and contains books that were deliberately removed from what most people today consider the Bible. Among those books is the Book of Jubilees, a text so ancient and so controversial that it was not only rejected from Western Christian canons, but actively suppressed. Unlike the King James Bible, which consists of 66 books, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible contains 81 books, including texts like Enoch, Jubilees, and various apocryphal writings that were stripped away by the early Roman Church. The question is, why? Why does the Ethiopian Church, one of the earliest Christian communities in history, hold on to these texts while the Western Church erased them from collective memory? To understand this, we need to examine the history of the Ethiopian Church. Christianity arrived in Ethiopia centuries before it reached most of Europe. The Ethiopian Bible is one of the most mysterious and controversial books that ever existed. Even the country itself is shrouded in mysteries that can't be explained, but that's a story for another day. Ethiopia is home to one of the oldest civilizations in the world, and is the only country in Africa that was not colonized. And because of that, they can trace their lineage all the way back to Ham, one of the sons of Noah. This has even been collaborated with the Jews, but this video is not about the country itself. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church traces its roots back to the time of the Apostles, with historical evidence suggesting that it was established in the 4th century AD. Unlike the Roman Catholic and Protestant traditions, Ethiopian Christianity developed independently and maintained ancient Jewish Christian traditions that had been discarded elsewhere. Egyptian traveller monk and historian Cosmos Indicus wrote that Ethiopia was a Christian country. When he visited there in the middle of the 6th century, he saw how the rulers opened their borders to a lot of Christian refugees who fled to Ethiopia as they ran away from persecution from kingdoms and empires that were against Christianity. Now let's talk about the King James Bible. The KJV, first published in 1611, was commissioned by King James I of England. The most important change may have happened during the reign of King James I III. Despite the Vulgate existing for about 500 years, there were still numerous versions and accounts of the Bible so much that it bothered the reigning monarch at that time. He was so worried about the different Bible versions that were popular in the 1600s. The king wanted a version of the Bible that settled religious differences as well as one that reinforced his power. Several priests also asked the king to make changes, saying that some of the translations that were going around were wrong. To solve this pressing issue, the king got 47 experts to look over all the different translations of the Bible that were already out there. They were split into 6 groups and worked on different parts of the project, on their own for 7 years. These men had to follow strict rules so that they wouldn't show any bias, and they also used a number of different tools to help them make a scientific Bible that stayed true to the original languages. It was meant to solidify Protestant doctrine and assert political and theological control over the Christian narrative. During this process, numerous books were removed from the biblical canon, books that had been considered sacred scripture for centuries. One of these was the Book of Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees is an apocalyptic and historical text that rewrites much of Genesis and Exodus. It presents an alternative chronology of biblical events, structuring all of history into 49-year cycles called Jubilees. But here's where it gets interesting. Jubilees claims to be divinely dictated to Moses by angels on Mount Sinai. It goes beyond the Torah, offering hidden revelations about the nature of time, divine law, and the spiritual forces governing the world. Jubilees was well known to early Christians and Jews. It was read widely in the centuries before Christ, and was even found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, indicating that the Essene community who rejected the religious elite of their time, held it in high regard. Early Christian scholars such as Origen, Epiphanius, and Justin Martyr referenced it. But despite its popularity, the Book of Jubilees was completely erased from the Western biblical tradition. Why? One reason might be that Jubilees presents a vision of history that contradicts the Roman Church's theological narrative. It reinforces strict adherence to Jewish law, details celestial forces governing human affairs, and outlines a cosmic struggle between good and evil that challenges mainstream Christian interpretations. It also strengthens the idea that divine revelation is ongoing, that Moses was given more than just the Torah, and that hidden knowledge exists beyond what we are traditionally taught. Consider the implications. If Jubilees had been included in the Western Bible, it would have changed the way Christians view history, prophecy, and divine law. It might have strengthened Jewish Christian communities that followed the Torah, preventing the total separation between Judaism and Christianity. It might have encouraged believers to look beyond the authority of the Church and into the vast archives of apocryphal and forbidden texts that tell a different story. But here's where it gets even deeper. If we acknowledge that the Ethiopian Church preserved these books while the Western world suppressed them, what else has been hidden from us? What truths have been buried under centuries of political and religious manipulation? The Book of Jubilees, like the Book of Enoch, presents an alternative history of the world, one in which divine beings interact with humanity, cosmic forces shape our destiny, and the true nature of time is revealed. This is knowledge that the ruling powers of religion may not have wanted the masses to access. In the grander scheme, the exclusion of Jubilees fits into a much larger pattern, the suppression of esoteric knowledge. Just as other ancient texts have been labelled heretical, burned, or locked away, so too was Jubilees erased from mainstream Christianity. But why? Could it be that the book contains truths that challenge the establishment? Could it be that, much like the texts found in the Ethiopian Bible, it represents an older, purer form of spiritual understanding that the Western world was never meant to have? These are the questions we must ask, and as we dig deeper into ancient scripture, lost texts, and suppressed knowledge, we begin to see the outlines of a story that has been hidden from us for centuries. The truth is out there. It's been preserved in places like Ethiopia, buried in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and scattered across apocryphal texts. The question is, are you ready to uncover it?